and we're about to move into a new and different realm. Some of you will remember in 1998, cannabis kind of burst onto the scene as a performance-enhancing drug. I don't think I anticipated that, but it was a welcome development nevertheless. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the man who brought it to Canadians' attention and to the attention of the world, Mr. Ross Rebagliati.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig, for the nice introduction. Well, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be standing here today, but I can tell you it's living up to my wildest dreams. The ones that I've had since I came back from Nagano in 1998 with the support of an entire country behind me after testing positive for what they thought was a drug that was on the list of banned substances. And as I had to point out to them at the time that it wasn't actually on the list of banned substances, and they can hand me my medal back and I'll be on my way back to Canada. Thank you very much. So, it's incredible for me to notice in the last 16 years since I was at the Olympics to see how far the cannabis culture and how far the cannabis industry in general has progressed and has welcomed me into the arms of the best people in the world, basically. And it's a testament just walking around CHAMPS 2014 in Toronto, talking to all the people, and the reception that we've gotten in particular has been amazing. So it's a pleasure to be here. Let's see, where do I point this thing? The dawn of snowboarding. Kind of like cannabis, it wasn't always allowed. And I remember in the 80s, I started snowboarding in 87. We weren't allowed to snowboard. It was incredible. Like, how can you say a sport's not allowed on a mountain or at all? And so I lived through snowboard prohibition. And then as soon as they lifted snowboard prohibition, there was all companies all coming from around the world, starting snowboard companies and paraphernalia for snowboarding and creating a whole fashion and a lifestyle and a culture around it. And I see the exact same thing happening right now here. It's an exact parallel. We're seeing the end of prohibition, in my opinion, coming in the near future, and we're all here and we all recognize that, and I think it's fantastic. Training in cannabis, my two favorite things to do. It's medicate and then train. I remember, I worked out 6 days a week, 3 days on, 1 day off when I wasn't competing. And each workout session was between 2 to 3 hours. So you're pulling almost 20 hours a week in a gym. And at first the motivation is there, but after 6 or 7 years, 10 years, you start to need the extra motivation. And I found like a big rip off my bong in the morning gave me that motivation to go to the gym again and again and again and again. And in a roundabout way, I ended up actually getting pretty competitive. Even though some of the guys were a lot bigger than me, I was able to pack on muscle, body mass. I was able to keep my appetite where it was supposed to be. I was able to sleep the amount of hours you're supposed to sleep, wake up in the morning early so I can do it all over again, and start my day off with a nice rip of motivation. So in a roundabout way, I can actually tell you for a fact that it is performance enhancing. There's no doubt about it. Nagano. So this is a long story, but I'll just cut to the chase. I did 3 drug tests before I went to Nagano, and I didn't get any news back, so I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do, and I had stopped using cannabis for myself prior to that in June, and my last drug tests that I did were, I believe, in December or possibly even in late January. And I got to the Olympics, and I had great training a couple of days before my event, and I had a great event where I won. I did a drug test again right after that. the next morning, we discovered that I had tested positive for cannabis, and through the media or for whatever reason, all the drug tests that I did before I went to Japan were made public knowledge, and the fact that I had tested positive for cannabis in all of my drug tests was revealed leading up to the Olympics. And I didn't know that. So it's kind of interesting that I would be allowed to get that far and lose a gold medal. But in any case, you know, the secondhand smoke story was a totally true story. I know it sounded convenient to a lot of people. I don't have a problem telling you that it was a totally true story. I had friends that passed away in avalanches prior to the Olympics. There was quite a lot of consumption going on at the wakes there. Not to mention, I was still hanging out with everybody that I normally would hang out with. And so I was just exposed to it, and the fact that they added it to the list of the banned substances that summer in '98, and then 16 years later, this summer, raised it by 1,000% because athletes were continuing to test positive, is a testament to the fact that we're transcending into like mainstream culture, and the IOC is even recognizing the fact that athletes may be more or less exposed to cannabis in regular, normal life, and I think that's a good realization. I think if it needs to be on the list of banned substances, tell everybody at least. Okay, the scan. We talked about this already a little bit. I got a phone call, a couple of nice phone calls. I got on some talk shows. Jay Leno was, you know, kind of the pinnacle for me at least. He was a big supporter. He you know, it was just a good experience to kind of go through what I did and then come and have Jay Leno. It was great. I've done a lot of things since the Olympics to try to like boost my career. One of them was, you know, to run for MP. I did that about 5-6 years ago. Against, I guess I was against Stockwell Day in the Okanagan-Coquihalla riding. I ran for the Liberal Party. I guess we're looking forward to the next election. Next. So I do continue to use cannabis on a regular basis. On a regular basis, and I can't stress enough what that means. It's constant. From when I wake up in the morning until I go to bed at night, I'm always, whether I'm using one thing or another, it doesn't matter. There's something cannabinoid going into me at all times. I feel like it helps me out in my everyday life. I do have nagging sports injuries. I do have a form of arthritis that's been passed down to me through my father and his family. In any case, it's a part of my life. It's a part of my everyday life. And I'm proud to tell you that. In the beginning, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of faced with the idea of corporate pushback, losing sponsors, embracing an industry that was still fighting, hard for, to exist against the laws, and quite frankly, I was scared to death. It took me a long time to come to terms with, who I was as a person and the people that I wanted to surround myself with, and I feel like I made the right choice. We don't really need to talk about this. We created a company. It's Ross's Gold. I think everybody pretty much understands we're creating a distribution of medical cannabis across the country. In Canada, we're going to be focusing on the patients who are most in need. I'm not going to elaborate on that right now, but we've got some really interesting plans, and I think we can't wait to tell everybody exactly what they are, and we'll just leave it at that. We're planning on being a brand, and so far what we've done is, from what we can tell, is we've got the creation and the beginnings of maybe one of the first brands in the industry, and I'm proud to be the CEO and one of the founders. I'm not the only guy that created this company. Patrick Smith, who's sitting in the front row here, had a lot to do with making that happen. So, yes, thanks, Patrick. We've got a partner website. It's Cannabis.ca. I'm going to be doing reviews on LPs. I'm going to be reviewing their products, rating products, talking about services. everything that's involved in the new system and the new model, the new federal model. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be doing interviews with random people, people from the industry, people from outside the industry, supporters, non-supporters. We're just going to have a discussion. We're going to try to make it national. We're going to try to create a national discussion about cannabis in Canada. And then that's it. You guys got any questions? Anybody feel free to. Seeds, the canary, I tried the canary seeds. They're excellent. Yeah, can I have a delivery of seeds?
So I have a handheld microphone here if anybody has questions they want to address to Ross.
Thanks for getting behind it. I really appreciate it.
Questions for the speaker? Anybody questions for the speaker? Questions for Ross? Here's a question.
Why do you think eating hemp seeds is such a good thing?
Yes, it's wonderful that you'll be providing high-grade medical marijuana to patients. And will you also be selling via the seeds any of the strains that you promote?
We're going to be looking into a seed situation. We don't know. We haven't talked about doing seeds specifically yet. We're just looking at doing dried cannabis. So, but yeah, we're looking at all aspects of it. Seeds obviously is an important part of what we do. What we have here, speaking of seeds, I mean, this is a great example of what you can do with cannabis seeds. The singing canary, hemp seeds, they've got, I mean, these things taste great. Omega-3s, it's like superfood. Like athletes should be eating this stuff. And athletes do actually eat this stuff. I eat it. So extracts is another big part of, what we're gonna try to educate people about and Health Canada in particular. And, we see the edibles as being the future and the new clients and the new patients that the cannabis industry wants to attract are ones that aren't maybe used to combusting a material and inhaling it. And I think that offering extracts is obviously a healthy way to take your medicine and a healthy way forward.
Question, Ross. We were talking before you started about how cannabis helped you identify the zone that you wanted to go to when you were in competition. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that was a good question. We talked about focus and being able to train your mind to block out everything and just kind of create a situation of reflex where if something happens, like if you're driving down the road, you want your reflexes to be the right reflexes so you don't crash. And it's the same thing for racing. And I found that when I was snowboarding, and I have to admit, I never actually used cannabis during a competition, and I chose to not do that because it didn't help me at that moment. But during training, when I was in a relaxed situation, I was able to get into a zone and focus and feel like different things that I wasn't as aware of otherwise, and it trained my mind to think about those things even when I wasn't being medicated, or even if I wasn't medicated. I was able to still remember how and what to look for, and in a roundabout way, it helped me focus and block out things that I wouldn't have, been as acute to noticing. So, for me, it was a way to really fine tune and get those hundreds of seconds that you need to, win races. So.
Hey Ross, I have a question. Without revealing your business plan too much, are you planning on providing affordable medicine for patients that can't afford the higher end?
Absolutely. Thanks, Redbeard, for that question. We are developing a plan that I sort of touched on earlier to create a system that would, in effect, draw profits from our company to create and provide cannabis to the people who are the most vulnerable and who need it the most for different reasons. And we'll try to figure out a qualification process, and in some cases it's obvious who needs it, and we want to make sure that the system doesn't get abused. But in any case, yeah, we're trying to create a system where we can provide medicine for free in some cases to as many people that need it, basically. We would love to be in a position to supply it for free to as many people that need it for free, and then have a tiered system where, if you can afford a little bit for it, you can pick your thing, and if you qualify for free, that's something that you know, it's been a big deal for me, and we're working on creating that business plan, and that's about all I can really say about it right now. But we are.
Ross, on behalf of Normal Canada, thanks very much for speaking with us today. One last question before we wrap up. Stockwell Day has retired from active politics. Are you going to run again?
That's funny. He actually stepped down just after I decided not to be a candidate anymore, so that was ironic. But I'll think about, I'm really excited to be doing Ross's Gold right now and being a part of the cannabis industry. That's my focus, and for now, and in the future, we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm just happy to be standing right here, right now. Thank you. Hi, Alex. Thank you.